Welcome to Influence Matters, the show for purpose driven leaders who are ready to turn their expertise into influence and their story into impact. I'm your host, Clara Rose, literary consultant, publishing strategist, and creator of the Spoken Book Method. Today, I have an exciting guest for you. I'm super excited to tell you a little bit about him. I'm going to bring him on in a second, but let me tell you about what it is that he does. He is a former Marine Combat Squad leader, and he's a business executive. He now runs a coaching practice focused on leadership, performance, and alignment. He helps great salespeople become CEOs, busy people find balance, and high performing teams stay that way. His process involves a mix of personal courage, mission commitment, and vision alignment, as well as a heavy hand of one-to-one focus sessions, forward tactics, technology, accountability, and most importantly, balance, which we all strive for. With his clients, they analyze the past, hold steady in the present, and will the future into existence. Please help me welcome today's guest, Jon Sheldon. Are you with me?
I'm with you. Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Clara. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. Thank you so much for taking time out of your, I'm sure, crazy busy schedule to share with my audience. Let's start by you saying what you really do. I gave kind of your bio, but what do you really do in this world?
What I do professionally in this world is really work with leaders, emerging leaders, and teams. Really find the best way that they operate, not only individually but as a unit. And then within that, we get to that word balance. So it's a lot of workshops, a lot of leadership development, and then I do a lot of one-on-one sessions. That's I help people get unstuck and become the person that they know that they are on the inside, I guess.
So this seems like a long ways from Marine Combat Squad leader or whatever that was, right? How
Yeah.
how in the world did you go from being a Marine? I mean, you were in leadership, right? So that answer, I guess, part of that question. But how did you go from being a Marine to an executive coach? Seems like a long ways away.
Yeah, and I don't meet. I guess when I got in the space, I thought I would meet more of me's. I guess, but really, I was when I got out of the Marine Corps. We'll skip the college part, but I landed in financial planning and spent the next 14 years or so in that world, running my own teams, and then end up, becoming a director of sales for a financial planning company, and having a region to run. And I think that's where, as I started progressing through my career outside of the Marine Corps, what kept bringing me back was what I really loved about the Marine Corps was the leadership part of it, the true leadership part of it, not what you see on the movies with like the yelling and screaming and stuff, like the true intimate leadership pieces of it and what it took to build those things. And when I started connecting those dots of like, oh wow, people are really missing a lot of small unit tactics, as I call it. I find that is the most enjoyable work that I do. It's the clients that I really connect with the most too, as well, and that's not a secret. Um, and I think that's really where it came to be. Is people had this almost this desire for look where it really came from. Is I saw a gap, Clara, in when every corporation or every company that I would walk into or look at, it was the leaders in the organizations were, and at least in that world, were always just the people that sold the most, who had the most clients, who had the most sales, whatever it was. And there was this massive gap between becoming a top level sales performer and an actual leader. And within that gap is where I found my real passion. And that's kind of where that transition came, because I didn't really understand. I had a coach myself when I was a financial advisor, but honestly was like, this is, it kind of tells me all the stuff I already know, and that helps me with accountability. But when you really started getting into it, at least it kind of brought me back to my roots of what it meant to be a small unit leader, and why is there such a large gap in corporations and within human beings, because they've just never needed to do that. And there's such a different skill set to be leading versus selling.
Mm, that's so good. And this is interesting. Last year, I had a client where I helped him write a sales book. right? I actually
Mm,
ghost wrote his particular book, but it's sales, and he comes out of the military as well. And so
mm,
all of the stories, and we actually interviewed a bunch of people as we wrote the book. They were all from his military days, right? And they were
that's
all
awesome.
talking about this unique um, way of interacting, this unique sales mentality, this unique leadership thing that is not a part of normal corporate America. So as you were saying that, I'm like, that's exactly like what I just experienced last year with this other client, right? Who was from the military. So there's something different that happens in the military that if you've not been, which I've not been, that we don't understand about the connections and the way uh,
Mm,
like this family thing that happens or this leadership thing that happens that we don't get out here in the real world or the other world, whatever we are outside of the military, right? So interesting that you just had this different perspective that brought you into a space which it did the same thing to him, right? It was like,
yeah.
yeah, you guys don't get it. It could work so much better, and here's how. Right? So that's super interesting to me. So when you went, okay, here's a missing piece for corporate America, right? Here's a missing
Mhm.
thing. How did you like take that next step? Okay, I'm going to fix this. Was it I'm going to change the way this is done, or I don't want to work in that, so I'm going to create my own thing? What made you say, oh, I'm going to be a coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had a coach, like I said, she actually really encouraged me when I started Belleau Wood back in 21. She really encouraged me to reach out to some old mentees that I had mentored. And quite frankly, it sounds basic, but it was a pretty easy exercise. I reached back out to them and basically said, hey, if we were to re-engage in this outside of a mentorship, but in more of a professional capacity, is that something that you would pay me for? To put it pretty bluntly, like I obviously it
Mhm.
was more tactful than that, but and all five of them that I reached out to said yes, and Bellawood was born, really. And from there, once I realized this could be, look, and one of the, I think when I look back at this, the transition really, one of the biggest aspects was you can't financial planning and finance in general is so constrictive of with compliance
Mm.
that was a big piece of it too. Is like there's only so much you can do in that world. Truthfully, there really is only so much you can do. And so when I really started breaking away, and some of my clients in the financial planning space specifically were getting really good results, ended up having deeper conversations with the company I was actually working with, and that turned into a really thriving relationship that I still have today, which has been really cool. So they actually became my largest client when I left.
Very cool. I actually experienced it a little bit this year. One of my clients is a financial planner. So the book that we're writing, there's like this whole huge compliance piece. Um,
Mm.
it's not about financial planning, right? It's adjacent to financial, but because she's a financial planner, we still have to go through this whole process
Oh
of,
yeah.
making sure she's not breaking. They have to like sign off on it, which I
Oh yeah.
thought, well, we're not talking about financial planning, but because she is one, it's
Yep.
so regulated. That's crazy. I love that the people that you worked with recognized the gap, right?
Yeah.
Recognized that there was a need for what you do or what you were building, and then said, "Heck yeah, let's do this." So, do you go after financial planners in general, or who do you serve?
Yeah. Great question. Definitely, they're a large client avatar of mine, client demographic of mine. I'd say probably 60% of my clients, maybe 65% are financial advisors. And then I work in real estate. And then I also have a big demographic of construction and that transitionary role from top salespeople to like directors of sales and leading teams. Those are I would call those my four avatars. So yeah, I definitely work a lot in financial planning. But I work in a bunch of literally four other industries as well.
Okay. And so are are you working um more on helping them where they are, or bring people out of those things into, like, so one of your part of your bio is making top salespeople into, CEOs. Is that
Yeah.
CEOs within the company, or are you helping them go elsewhere and start their own thing? Is that part of what
It's
you
a
do?
little it's a little bit of both, yeah. So
A
some
little bit of
people,
both.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Some people, are reaching out and saying, "Hey, this is what I'm looking to do." And there's like this obvious difference between consulting and coaching, and so I have to tread that line. And sometimes you cross over, especially in the financial planning, because my experience is back there. Um, but yeah, no, I help in both ways, and so a lot of the top salespeople, it's a lot of weirdly finding purpose again. What it takes to be a top level salesperson and a leader are oftentimes fundamentally very opposite. Most people that become top level salespeople, they're really focused on, and call it what it is. This is statistical, and in my experience with clients, they're recognition based. They like the recognition. They've thrived off of it probably since their early 20s, um, which inherently is about them and goals and achievements and what they can accomplish. And really working on that mindset of leadership at its basic level is elevating others, and it's not about you. And I think that's a big one for them to get over. It's the how the team has done is your measure of success, not how you have done. And that
Mhm.
mindset really shakes people a lot of times because, again, for the last maybe 20 years, they've been focusing in on how do I hit this next goal? How do I get recognized for this? Where am I going? And then there's a sense of purpose that's tied to that. I find a lot of times is that they start really rooting their qualifications for life in sales numbers and achievements and glass medals that you can buy for $14 at a thrift store, and I've got some of them in my office right now, honestly. But there's a different total mindset when you shift over to that leadership. And I think to answer your question, it's definitely both. I've helped many top salespeople start their own businesses. And I've also worked with a lot of top salespeople who start to run teams and become directors and CEOs of their own companies as well.
It's such a shift in mindset between being uh, focused on yourself and focused on exterior things.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing this, probably was doesn't surprise you, but in the last year or so, more and more clients are coming to me, book clients are coming to me about the topic of purpose, right? How
Mm,
um, they were either derailed, transitioning from being about that competitive, that next accomplishment for themselves, and
yep.
then not have feeling like they had purpose, right? They're not, so it's interior versus an exterior, right? Purpose is kind of exterior thing, where competitiveness is more of an internal thing. So interesting that you brought that topic up, because I'm hearing it more and more. I think we're, as professionals, we're shifting towards wanting to have purpose, being more
Mm.
purpose driven. Um, and that's what leadership, brings for a lot of people, is a purpose exterior to themselves. So I think that's interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's
Tell
it's
me.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say purpose is one of the 4 pillars of what I consider, is building people's personal performance blueprints, as I call them. It's purpose is the first step. You have to define that for yourself
Okay.
because most people define it
Perfect.
as their work.
Yes, yes. And that was where I was headed next, was tell me about the process a little bit, so that we understand a little bit about what you do. Um, everything that I do starts with a blueprint, right? Brainstorming blueprint is the beginning stage, because that's, for me, that's foundational, fundamental, right? You got to start with a solid foundation. So tell me, it sounds like you have 4 pillars. So tell us a little bit about that. I'm
Yeah, thank
curious.
you. So there's 4 pillars, what I call your building your professional blueprint. Every client goes through it with me. So that's really defining. I've got an entire workshop on it. So people can, this is not a sales pitch, but people can purchase that. I do the workshops quite often with teams defining this. But for individuals, it's always, again, defining it for yourself is what your, so first is purpose. What is your why? Simon Sinek's got a great book on that. Um, then the next pillar would be your vision. So if we understand who we are, which is the why, then where are we going? And that's the vision. Like, again, not as a professional, as a human being. Like, what does the next 3 years of your life look like? Then we define one that I think is the most overlooked in the pillars, and that is ecosystem and environment. What environments do you actually thrive in? And not just people, places, things. Technology has to be a big part of that now. And really understanding and helping people define their ecosystem of how they thrive. Most people are really just focused in on who they spend the most time with, which is obviously a big piece of it. But we have to be looking at calendars and energy um, and places and tools, right? I think COVID really exposed that a lot, where you had half the population that thrived working from home, and then you had half of the population that didn't and really missed social interaction or the physical space to go. Um, and then the last one is motivation. And the reason I picked motivation and not discipline was because when I really started thinking about it, motivation drives action, action drives discipline. And so, how do you actually get going? What actually motivates you? Not what you see on a poster and or on social media, and you're just like, oh yeah, that got me jacked up today. No, internally, what really drives you and what drains you, and be honest about that. When we go back to tie these couple things together, and one of your earlier questions of like that transition between the Marines and what I do now, that's a big piece of it. When I started diagnosing leadership in a corporate setting, I knew everything about my Marines. I knew their purpose. I knew why they were there. I knew what they wanted to do when they got out. I knew the ecosystems that they thrived in, and I knew what motivated them. And so when I broke that down and started bringing that to organizations just on that basic level, you started to see some pretty massive change just in how people understood themselves, and then how people understood people on their teams. Because if you understand those four aspects of everybody on your team, how much better of a leader could you be? And that's the question I kept asking myself. So every client has to go through that. And then, it depends on what type of contract they have with me, where it's usually one-on-one sessions or team sessions beyond that. And I try and do it bi-weekly. But there's a lot of workshops and a lot of courses that I've built that my clients get if they hire me within the programs that I do. I'm not a programs coach, so like there's not like a 12-step program outside of that initial developing your blueprint, which you have to develop with me. Then everything else from there is really customized to the client.
So it's foundational, isn't it? It's like a starting point. You have to know where you are. You have to know who you are. I say this all the time to my own clients, beginning of a book, where we talk about, why you're writing this book, but just an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish, I think is foundational. I love the third pillar about the environment. I think
Mm,
that is completely not underutilized, but people don't look at that, right? People don't consider that. But what fires you up, what fills you up versus what drains you really
mm,
matters. I
really
think
matters.
because I've been an entrepreneur for like 43 years now in business, I, over the years, in my younger years especially, did things that didn't fill me up, right? That
Mm,
didn't weren't fulfilling, right? So I would do them because I think, oh, I could totally do that. Like people who've known me for more than 5 minutes have heard me say that before. I look at something, go, I could totally do that, and so I do, right? But then I'm in it, doing it, thinking, well, this sucks. I don't like this. I've actually given businesses away to employees or given business. I don't like this. I built this. Is it thriving? Yes. Is it doing great? Yes. Did it work? Yes. But I don't like it. I don't love it. I don't want to do it. Right. And
mm,
move on to something else. Right. Which is, crazy. People think I'm crazy, but because that fulfillment was always important to me and nobody talks about it. You're probably the first person this is my ninth year doing this show. You're probably the first person that I've interviewed that has said anything about that at
really?
all. So yeah, people will talk about purpose and people will talk, about some of the other pieces, but to talk about the environment or the things that drain you versus the things that fill you, people aren't talking about that. but it
Yeah.
matters, right? I would crawl through broken glass before I'd be an accountant. Right? Just shoot me, right? Because that's how much I would hate that as a profession, like, blah, right? But
Yep.
I know these things about myself, and so I would from years of experience, right, trying things and going, "Blah, I don't love that," right? So here you have a process that bakes that in, so I think that is brilliant. How do you use assessments or something to help them figure out that piece? Is there a magic to knowing that?
Yeah, so I love that question. So I don't use any assessment. Most of my clients have taken, pick your poison assessment disc or Myers Briggs or whatever that might be, Working Genius, and those are all great. They're backed by an incredible amount of science. If they send that to me, that I'm more than happy to look it over. I'm familiar enough with all of those. But this when you after you so it takes a while. It takes like 3 hours to go through the blueprint, and at the end, with the help of AI, now I'm able to take all of those answers and create a one-page blueprint that, again, if it's a leader of a team, they get not only theirs but their entire teams. And if it's just an individual, they have now an actual physical, either digitally or paper version of their blueprint that's been summarized by 3 hours of actually working on it. So they're going to walk away with those types of things. And the real purpose is, again, to challenge yourself. Like, if you're out of alignment with anything in your blueprint, you need to get back to it, making decisions based on, like you just talked about. Like, same thing. I couldn't engineer, accountant. No, for the birds. I'm good about that. But but equally for me, honestly, is and this is something I struggle with as a solopreneur, honestly, is I don't work well just alone. I'm a teams guy. I have been, and
Mm,
it took me a
mm,
really long time to figure that out. Really I struggled really bad. I did great in my internship. I did great when I built my financial team with a partner. But when I was a single advisor, I struggled, and it really confused me. It's like, I don't
mm,
understand this. And you brought up a point with your client there writing the book, the military, of that brotherhood. And it's something that I found in my
mhm,
ecosystem, which is so deeply important to me. Even today, I do have a couple, part-time and one full-time employee, but they're not actually physically with me. I rent
mm,
space out of an office. This is my actual office, but like, I rent space from a small team that I trust and love, partly because that's something that it's part of my ecosystem. When I sit at home and
mhm,
work there, I'm not efficient. I will
mm,
find things to distract
right.
me. But when I get
Anything.
energy,
Yeah.
yeah. When I get energy, I'm like,
Uh,
I'm on fire. And so I love that you
yeah.
said that. I appreciate you bringing that up because it's so important to me, and I find that, again, most people just don't consider it enough.
Mm. Well, people don't know to focus on it,
Yeah.
right? People don't it's not something you're conscious of, right? You're thinking, yes, purpose makes sense. And yes, what do I want? The big picture, those things make sense. But that piece, people don't talk about it, right? They're not
Yeah.
saying, what fills me up versus what drains me, right? And why do I get myself in a position where I'm in this job or this business or this whatever, and I'm not content, right? Something's
Yeah.
amiss, something's not right because they haven't considered that piece, right? You don't
Yep.
know that you don't like to work solo alone until now suddenly you're solo working alone, right? And then you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah. Yeah.
something's wrong, right? But you may have
Yeah.
spent years getting there, right? And
Yep.
then you get there and go, well, this sucks a lot. I don't want to do this at all. And some people
Yeah.
just will blow up their career, their life because they're like, I can't do this. Shoot me now, right? Versus
Yep.
going, wait a minute, what is it that is leaving me less than satisfied? Why is there no fulfillment here? What is this that's got me so depleted and trying to
Yep.
fix that? And maybe it is a different career, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it's an employee, right? Or a team or renting a space where you can collaborate with others, right? What's really missing that environment piece? I think that you need to write a book about that because I think
You
that
told me this. You told me
is a
this.
brilliant missing piece. People don't know. Okay. Um, so you're working with teams, you're working corporately, or you're working independently. So we don't have a lot of time left. So I want to give you some time to talk about who is ideal for you, how they find you, and how that process starts. In case someone's going, "Oh my gosh, I totally need Belleau Wood Coaching. I need to talk to Jon." Right? How do you want them to engage with you?
I appreciate it. And you knocked the cover off the ball with pronouncing my business name, which is great. So thank you
Oh,
for that.
I'm a wordsmith, so
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
I better.
yeah. Great question. So I basically it comes down to like growth. If you're in that space where you're thinking to yourself like I've never really understood what type of leader that I'm trying to become, or there's this gap that I'm just not getting through to my people, or I'm kind of lost. I think that's one piece. The other piece is definitely growth. So I've got my website up here. Coaching is for the ready. I think that's a basic explanation, but it's also really, really true. People ask me my sales process all the time. I don't have an extensive one. It's people are ready or they're not ready to get this external piece of guidance. And I think that's
Sure.
a big piece of it is I'm never a hard seller. Probably it's probably held me back, honestly, but I have a deep connection with all of my clients and they're ready to do the work. And that's why the success rate is high because of that. There's no convincing a client. So I think that's the
Right.
biggest piece is I forgot the peanut gallery part, my testimonial piece, but
I love it.
yeah, and you get some humor, all right? Yeah, like, look, life is serious, business is serious. We're gonna have some
That's
fun a little
right.
bit. Yeah. Um, growth seekers,
I love
really,
that.
truthfully, I know it's basic, but growth
Mm,
seekers, like, you're trying to grow. Are you looking for something different? Are you saying like this is it, but there's just something missing? And a lack of maybe confidence. And I think that's where a lot of my clients walk
mm.
away with is not only skills. My coaching is also only 3 months at a time. So I don't I outside of big
Oh,
institutional
okay.
contracts. Yep. Outside of big institutional contracts, you can only work with me for about 90 days at a time. Um, and I'm pretty strict with that, to be honest with you, because I think
Mm,
that
I love
I think
that.
that we need to both adjust and understand, is this working? Is it not working? And what I've found is when
Right.
clients get to that stage of like maybe you've been a couple sessions are stagnant, all of a sudden they're looking like, is this worth it? You can't be that. You got to be walking into your coaching session
Right.
every time with I'm going to get something out of this. I'm ready to do it. So what I've done is
Right.
I put it on the line and say, look, I'm going to have to make sure that the coaching that I'm giving my clients is valuable every single 90 days. We're going to do a check-in with it. It's all paid up front. I also believe in that. I don't believe that I need to be handcuffed or any coach should be handcuffed by the next payment. So like one-offs, I
Totally
don't do at
agree.
all. Yeah. It's like you pay
Yeah.
up front because I'm going to
Totally
tell you
agree with
stuff
you.
that probably not you're not going to
You're
love all
not
the
gonna
time.
like.
Yep.
I love
Yeah.
this.
And I
Dang
can't
it,
be
we're out of time. I was probably
yeah,
could chat with
but
you forever because I just align with all the things that you're saying. Thank you so much for being here to share with my audience. I'm sorry that we have to go so quickly, but we're out of time. Um, I appreciate your time so much.
I appreciate yours,
Thank you
Clara.
for
Thank you so
being here.
much.
All right. You take care. All right, my friends, there you have it. We're just about out of time, but if you know you need to talk to Jon, hop on over to his website and connect with him for sure. Of course, as always, thank you for being here with me today on Influence Matters. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, blah, 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 all the stuff around the show that helps us stay here. But if you've been carrying a book idea that won't leave you alone, give me a call. I'd love to be part of your journey getting your book out to the world. And of course, as always, until next time, keep crafting your message for the world, my friend. Take care.